basically what you're saying is not only am I going to have to pay my buyer's broker to assist me, that I'm also supposed to pay an appraiser to assist me?
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Appraiser Coach Podcast. My name is Dustin Harris. I am the host of the Appraiser Coach Podcast, and we are sponsored today by two great companies, one of them being OREP Insurance. OREP is my E&O of choice, orep.org, and of course, my software of choice is our other sponsor today, and that, of course, is Alamode, alamode.com or 800 Alamode. I want to welcome back to the program. Good friend of the program, been on the program as a guest almost as much as the host. His name is Tim Andersen, and Tim, welcome back to the program, my friend.
Dustin, thank you. I appreciate it. It is always good to be with you. And you'll notice today that I have on a blue shirt.
I saw that. It looks so amazing. In fact, it's a very similar tone to what I've got. That's it's good to see that you're trying to emulate me.
Yes.
I'm kidding, my friend, because if I could ever be even a smidgen of what you are, I will be happy. Welcome to the program. Your name is Tim Andersen, and you are the appraiser's advocate. What does that mean?
It means that if you get in trouble with your state or find yourself with a subpoena or find yourself in trouble with Fannie Mae or find yourself in trouble with anybody, give me a shout. I can probably help you out a little bit. And if you do give me a shout, it will be an honor to know you and a pleasure to work with you.
I've worked with many people who have worked directly with you, Tim, and I've never once had anyone say anything negative. It's always been a positive experience. I've always said, well worth the money. When you say give you a shout, I assume you don't actually mean that they open up their window and call for you. How's the best way to reach out to you, Tim?
Tim at theappraisersadvocate.com.
All right. So, audience, as you know, if you're a listener to this program, you know that I have Tim on frequently because he is a USPAP expert, in addition to being an advocate for appraisers. We typically do what's called the Dear USPAP Instructor Program episodes, if you will, where we take questions from you, the audience. It just so happens, Tim, that today we don't have any questions from the audience. So how about we just have a chat about what's on your mind? How does that sound?
Dustin, that sounds absolutely wonderful. Now, before we get into it, is there anything on your mind that we should cover?
Well, I just got done recording an episode that will come out early. Typically, we do these things in advance, as you know. Usually, it's 4 to 5 weeks out from recording to actually posting. But I recorded an episode this morning that will go out this coming Sunday. So by the time this airs, when people are listening to this, it will have been several weeks before they hear this, but it was on the new NAR, new as of this recording, the NAR settlement and what opportunity that has for appraisers. So that's been on my mind a little bit. I feel like this is an opportunity for appraisers to shine and show their stuff and say, you know what, I'm an expert in the real estate world, and let me be your consultant as you go into the buying world. I think it's a shock to agents, but as appraisers, they have, any change brings opportunity.
And which opportunities do you think that this NAR decision will bring to appraisers?
Yeah, so to put it in a nutshell, and of course people can go back at this point and listen to the episode. It will be a couple weeks back. My advocacy for appraisers is to take opportunity to show the value that they bring to the world of real estate in the valuation world, right? So this mostly had to do with buyer's agents and the commission that they would receive. And I feel that this shines a light on agents and the value that they bring to the marketplace. One of the value propositions that I think a buyer's agent brings to the marketplace is to say, hey, I'm here to support you and represent you as a buyer and make sure you don't make a bad decision. And sometimes, let's just be honest, and I love my agent friends out there. This is not a diss on you. but you may not be the best expert when it comes to value in the marketplace. Why not partner with an appraiser who can also be not an advocate for you, but an advocate for the marketplace? And stay with me. What I mean by advocate is someone who will tell the true value of the marketplace, which can then be used as a third party, unbiased knowledge base to make sure you're not making a bad decision when you pay $400,000 for that house that's really only worth $350,000.
Okay. Now, let me play devil's advocate.
Sure,
I'm
please.
buying a house.
Mhm.
I'm buying a house. And I got a buyer's broker working for me.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, I'm going to have to pay the buyer's broker,
Mhm.
my broker, because given NAR's, I shouldn't say NAR's decision because it wasn't theirs,
Right,
but
their settlement.
giving the courts pending decision, it still hadn't been approved yet, but giving the settlement that NAR has negotiated, brokers are pretty much now going to be separated by who they work for, buyers, sellers.
Mhm.
Now, I've hired a buyer's broker, and for whatever fee I'm going to pay.
Sure.
Now, basically, what you're saying is not only am I going to have to pay my buyer's broker to assist me, that I'm also supposed to pay an appraiser to assist me.
Yeah, great
Is-
question.
Isn't isn't the buyer's broker, or excuse me, shouldn't the competent buyer's broker be just as familiar with the market? In fact, if not more so than the appraiser?
Should is an interesting word, and I will say this, Tim. If you do the math, and I brought this up on the episode, if you do the math, the typical traditional payment to a buyer's agent is going to be 3%. If you do the math on a $400,000 purchase price, you're coming out to $12,000. And I guess my question would be, did you get $12,000 worth of value from that buyer's agent that you hired? If the answer is no, or if it's yes, right? Could that be combined with some expertise in the marketplace from an appraiser who truly should be the expert in the marketplace, should be the expert on that individual property that you're purchasing? $12,000 can go a long way in either a partnership between an agent and a real estate appraiser, and or hiring an appraiser outright in addition to whatever fee you negotiate. And I doubt it's going to be $12,000, but whatever fee you negotiate with that buyer agent, could you also negotiate a fee to someone like myself who should be an expert in the Idaho Falls market and help you to make sure that you're making an informed decision?
Okay. Now, for whatever reason, I want to move to Idaho Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, Dustin, help me out with values. I don't want to overpay.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, okay, no problem. Fine. Now, please don't use dollar figures.
Okay.
But what are you going to charge me?
Mm-hmm.
Don't say a lot, because you'd be nuts if you didn't. But what are you going to charge me? And how are you going to charge me? You're going to charge me a flat fee? You're going to charge me an hourly fee?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to say, hey, we'll work out the compensation once this thing goes down? Are you going to say, well, whatever the purchase price is, I want X%?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's just pull 1% out of the market.
Okay.
There's me out of the air, totally atmospherically extracted, like way too many adjustments I see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's $4,000. Okay, now what is the appraiser going to do that the broker can't do that's worth another $4,000?
That's a great question, Tim. And I would say that if we appraisers truly are worth our salt, if we are who we say we are, we should be better. I'm just going to say it. We should be better at looking at the market and specifically the specific value of a particular home than any agent. That's not the agent's job. It's part of their job. That's not their job. That is the appraiser's job. And thus, as an appraiser, one who should be intimately familiar with my market, that should be the expert, if you will. Could you get a service from an agent on value? Sure, you could, right? Could you get an agent to tell you whether they think it's a good deal? Okay, sure, you could. But could you get a true appraisal and true understanding of the market value from an agent, unless they're an appraiser and working as an appraiser, the answer to me is no. Your expert's going to come from the individual, the appraiser, who should be the expert in the local market.
Okay. Let us continue.
Please.
All right. I hire you.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, okay, Tim, or I hire you. I say, okay, Dustin, I'm going to pay $400,000 for that house. And you stop a minute and you consult your magic beans and you shake your enchanted snake entrails. And you say,
did you see this, Tim? My new
oh, your new crystal ball?
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you see that? That's
You notice I didn't refer to the plural. Um,
keep it family friendly, folks.
those who are listening, you'll get this when it's all over, and you'll be driving home at night. You go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's what he meant. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So you and you say, well, Tim, you can pay for what you want to. It's your money, but I really don't think it's much more worth more than about 385 tops. And I go, oh, Dustin, wow, thank you. You just saved me at least $15,000. Right now, we could go there as to how much of that savings you should get, but let's not. Let's look
Okay.
at it from a little bit different direction. Now, in saying, Tim, don't pay 400 for that house, it's not worth it. That house is worth at most 385. Haven't you just become my advocate?
Sure. Yeah.
And in doing so, since you're functioning as an appraiser, can you be my advocate?
Right. That's why I corrected, or not corrected, but refined my statement earlier when I used the word advocacy. I understand the USPAP restrictions. I understand what my role is, and when I say advocate, I'm talking about an advocate for. In fact, let's not use that word. It's misleading. It's hard to understand. It's hard to define it as I'm thinking of it in my head. Okay, so let's move away from that word for just a second, and let's say, as an appraiser, my job is to be unbiased, to be a third party, if you will, to not be influenced by the sales price, or even treading into the mysterious waters of, am I going to get paid based on how much this thing sells for? Okay, I think that as an appraiser, to be safe, that you should be very careful about how you approach this, and either charge by the hour and or charge by the job, right? And make sure that the buyer understands that your job is to simply appraise the property or look at the market, however you hired me for, right? But not to necessarily say whether or not you should buy this property. My job as an appraiser is to say this thing is worth 385. You take that information, Mr. Buyer, and you do with it what you please. But my job is done when I say that house is worth, in the marketplace currently, as of this effective date, that house is worth 385.
Okay. So by being no more changing your job absolutely zero.
I don't think this changes your job at all.
Yeah, you're still just an appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. You're still just an appraiser. So, and you've hired me, and I'm going to pull a number out of the air. It means nothing. You're going to pay me $500 for my appraisal. Okay. So I do the appraisal, or excuse me, you do my appraisal for me, and I give you $500. And then I'm marching happily into the seller's house. And the seller's broker comes up, big fat smile on her face, and says, unless you've got an offer over 405, don't even walk in the house, because I got one right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, wait a minute. I just paid Dustin $500 to tell me that house wasn't worth a dime over $385,000. And now if I want this house, I got to beat 405.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell good was Dustin to me?
Yeah, and it's a great question. And I would say that welcome to the marketplace, because what an appraiser says and what an appraiser comes up with is one piece of data. What actually is happening in the marketplace, you get somebody that came into Idaho from, I don't know, California, and is used to certain prices and then comes to Idaho and go, oh, I can get that for that, and don't pay attention necessarily to the marketplace, and you're competing with that individual, then that absolutely happens every day, right? That's not my job. My job is not to decide whether or not you decide to move forward with an offer that's at 406. My job as an appraiser is to tell you what the marketplace says that house is worth. And guess what, Mr. Buyer? It's worth 385. You now take that data and you decide to do or not to do whatever you need to do. And by the way, Tim, you mentioned something earlier. I want to make it crystal clear, crystal clear. Okay. I want to make it crystal clear that I am not in any way saying that this NAR settlement changes the role of appraisers. I have for years been advocating for appraisers to market themselves as the expert in their market, right? Whether it be in partnership with agents or whether it be directly with buyers. For years, I've given that advice to appraisers on this very microphone and in my all-star team and whoever, pays me for coaching, that you have an awesome opportunity to establish yourself in the marketplace. Be known as the expert. To me, this settlement only exemplifies that. To me, this only elevates that. You now have an opportunity because a buyer now is starting to ask themselves, what does a buyer's agent do for me? And by the way, don't get me wrong, there's still plenty that they do, right? To negotiate, to find, to walk through, to go through the paperwork, all of that jazz. I'm not saying in any way that that's diminished, but I think that this settlement allows buyers to now step back and say, I wonder with this big of a purchase if I ought to have more than just a buyer's agent involved, and maybe I should involve an appraiser, whether it be that appraiser is partnering with the agent, right, and they're working together, or I hire that appraiser outright. I want to know what this house is actually worth.
Okay, now I hire you,
Mm-hmm.
and there's that $400,000 house. And you look at it with me, so you're familiar with it. And we sit down and you say with Tim, well, there's this house and there's that house, and this one's a little bit better and this one's a little bit worse. But, all things considered, throwing the snake controls, checking the magic value dust that's floating around out there, it's a $400,000 house. I go, oh, okay, all right. And now let's suppose that based on your advice, I get it for $395. I go in and I negotiate hard and I get $395.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because you helped me buy this house, and you did, have you stepped into the role of a broker?
No.
Why?
Because your job, and I think this is important for appraiser. Again, this program is for appraisers, right? I'm not talking to agents right now. I'm not talking to lawyers. I'm not talking to anybody except my good friend Tim and the listeners of this program, which 95% of them are appraisers, right? I'm the appraiser coach, not the agent coach. So appraisers, listen very closely. Be careful. Understand your role. Understand your limitations of your license. Understand your advocacy, right? Understand what that means and what the restrictions are there. You're not in a role to help them to negotiate. You're there to give data. You're there to give information. You're there to provide information that buyer can now use to make a decision. And I think as long as appraisers understand their role and understand what their role is not, that they don't cross that line, then I think they can be a huge benefit and create great value in the marketplace for potential buyers.
Okay, one of the potential ramifications of this decision is going to affect MLS systems, simply because now NAR will not be able to, and in fact, no, not only a NAR-owned MLS system, but a privately owned MLS system, will not be able to list a buyer's brokerage fee.
Okay.
That's one of the big deals about the settlement. Now, there are some major players out there. You got CBRE, you got Keller Williams, you got Remax, you got some major regional players out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they bought their way out of this settlement. And the settlement, by the way, is $418 million, assuming it accepts it.
Little chunk of change, right?
Teensy, well, it's less than $300 per realtor member, quite frankly, but
Okay.
that's neither here nor there. So, the Keller Williams, which has got offices all over the place, says, okay, we don't need the MLS. We're going to do our own nationwide MLS for all of our franchisees and all of our brokers. And all of a sudden, the appraiser's ability to access Keller Williams MLS system is zero unless they either get a broker's license or a real estate license and become an agent, or somehow they buy into it, assuming that potential is even available. But assuming they buy into it. So, okay, you buy into Keller Williams. Well, in small towns, that may be all you need. But in major metropolitan areas, you're not getting the MLS systems of the other major brokers in town. Now, in other words, your data are going to be limited to what Keller Williams has available or what you can get yourself down at the courthouse. Now, we both know that there is a type of bias that is it's called selection bias. And basically what it is it's limiting your selection of data to one source.
Right.
When there are other sources of available out there, and essentially you're ignoring them.
Yeah.
Now, okay, there's Keller Williams. You joined Keller Williams. But if you had to join Remax and you had to join CBRE and blah, 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 and blah, 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 you could be talking $3,000 or $4,000 a year just in membership fees, assuming that they'll let you join as an appraiser without having to become part of their organization. Now, is that going to affect the boots on the ground real estate appraiser? And not only from the standpoint of paying for it, but if they demand that you become one of their associates, for lack of a better term, is that going to cost money? And then typically these people just assume that you, as an agent, are going to bill X amount per month in commissions and fees or pay them that. Well, you're paying $4,000 or $5,000 for data. You had to buy into their program, and now you're having to basically run your appraisal business through their office so they can see how much you're billing to see if they meet minimums, or to see if you meet their minimums. Now, how is that, if at all, going to affect the boots on the ground appraiser?
Excellent question, my friend. Hold that question because I have an answer. But first, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by a couple of great companies. Of course, one of them being A la Mode. A la Mode is my software of choice for residential appraisal reports. Why, folks? The built-in tools with A la Mode are amazing. I don't even have time to go through all of them, but check out QuickSource. Just that one. Just go to alamode.com, check out QuickSource. You will be blown away of how easy it makes your job. alamode.com or 800-ALA-MODE. OREP, folks. OREP is my E&O of choice and should be yours as well. E&O is not something that we think about very regularly, but we should, right? It's there as insurance. Think about what insurance is, folks. It's your ability to sleep well at night, right? But OREP takes it to another level. The value, we've been talking today about value. What value do you bring to the marketplace? The value that OREP brings to appraisers is amazing. Go to their website, orep.org, and click on the benefits tab, right? And find out the things that they will give you. Check them out, orep.org. That's OREP.org. And we're back. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair with my good friend, Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome back, Tim.
Dustin, thank you.
Good.
One of our computers is messing up.
I see that. I
Thank you
see
for
that.
welcoming me back. I appreciate
It
it. I love
reminds
to
me.
be
It
here with
reminds
you.
me of the '80s when we watched the news and someone was broadcasting from Tel Aviv, and we had to wait like 30 seconds before we could hear their response. But that's okay. Great technology that we're dealing with. Okay, Tim. Before the break, you asked a question. Just to summarize it, people can go back and listen. But summarize. You asked a question about data, right, and access to data, and will that change appraisers' jobs moving forward? And I would say it depends, Tim. And I would say there's a lot of things that could happen with this settlement. There's a lot of things that may happen. There's a lot of things that are probably going to happen. And I would say that again, my overall answer to your question is the same overall arching topic that I want to share with appraisers, and that is the creation of value. Okay. Now, when I say creation of value, I'm not talking about appraised value. I'm not talking about house value. I'm not talking about market value. I'm talking about the value that you, as a professional, bring to the marketplace. Okay. And if you can position yourself to be the expert in the local market and start to negotiate and understand that the changes with data are going to be a benefit to those that you service, right? To those that you help, to those that you have clients with, okay? That if you can help agents, companies, Keller Williams, you gave as an example, that giving that information, whether it's paid for or not, but that appraisers having access to that data are a benefit to them and their business, right? That's going to open up negotiations that will help both parties. How that actually transpires, I guess it depends on what actually happens with that data. But I still think that the market works when you show the value that you bring to the market.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. And we haven't gotten yet to one of the topics that I wrote down. Isn't that wonderful?
That's okay, because guess what? We can do that next time we meet up because, Tim, you are a frequent and open invitation to be on this program. We love you and love the way that. And by the way, I should whether you make it clear or not, I'm going to make it clear, right? That one of the job, I think you said it earlier, is to be a devil's advocate, right? To help us to really look at all of these things, whether or not you believe this side or that side doesn't matter. I think it's the open discussion that is helpful to all appraisers to say, yeah, what about that? I didn't think about that aspect. So thank you, Tim, for bringing that to the table.
Yeah, this is well, Dustin, of course, you're welcome. This is an issue that obviously is going to go away relatively quickly because the decision has been made, and basically the only thing left is the court to ratify the settlement. There are a couple other minor things, but the big one is for the court to say, yeah, okay, that's enough penalty, because as you know, this was an antitrust suit.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, the $1.487 billion penalty that was originally assessed against NAR could be increased 3 times under the law. But so NAR is saying, well, okay, we'll give you 418 million and let's make this thing go away. Well, obviously we have to see if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It very well may, frankly.
Mm.
But it is going to affect appraisers in various ways. And one of them may be access to MLS systems. Another one may be all those brokers who probably aren't going to have a job anymore, trying to move into real estate appraisal, because that's just a natural travel or a natural journey for them to make. And then the fact that the GSEs are ordering fewer appraisals.
Mm.
And that is a truth that is going to stay with us until interest rates go back down. And what back down means, I don't have a clue, but they're going to come off 7%. A lot of people aren't buying because of 7% mortgages.
Sure.
But the point is, I'm not denigrating NAR, but I don't think they've addressed all of the issues.
No, it's lots to come.
The appraisal societies, I don't think have addressed the issues at all, frankly. We've not heard anything from any of the appraisal societies on this. And I think that you talked about being the expert. The appraisal societies are the experts. And we're not hearing anything from them. At least I haven't, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong. quite frankly. But so as a result, you and I have the opportunity to present this platform and maybe clear some things up. Of course, you and I aren't experts in the NAR decision either. But rather than continue bloviating, I will thank you for the opportunity to have gotten on my soapbox.
Thank you, my friend. Spirited and informative conversation as always, Tim. One more time, your email address in case people want to reach out for more of your opinions.
Tim at theappraisersadvocate.com.
Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.